What's going on, everyone? Happy Thirsty Thursday. Welcome to another live stream. Good to be back. I think we've got a pretty interesting show lined up here for this evening. We're going to be joined here in just a bit by Marty, Whiskey Knows, our good friend and supporter of the channel. And we've got something different. We've got Logan, who is the master blender for the Bond Bourbon. And full disclosure, I had not heard of this brand until I started talking to Logan. And all this kind of came to fruition is through one of the guys in the Patreon group. So Keith G, reached out. He asked if I knew who Logan or the brand was and if I'd be interested in having him on. And I said, I'm not familiar with the brand, but I would certainly be interested in talking more about him and, the brand, talk about it. I like to look at what we do here as a bit of an open book and a little bit of a ride. I don't know exactly where this is going to go, but we've got, something new and interesting. So Logan was kind enough to send us some bottles. And what I've done is I've opened them only to send Marty samples. So he's got them as well. But I've not tasted these. So what we're going to do in just a few moments is we'll bring Logan on. We'll start to get acquainted a little bit, and then we'll start sipping through these whiskeys. We'll give him our feedback and do some giveaways like we normally do. Before I bring the guys on, say hello to a few of you guys here in chat. Top Jimmy, what's going on, buddy? I see Trey Larkin in the house. What's going on, Trey? Let's see, Bourbon Dan, what's going on? Cheers, Tom. Thanks for the samples. I got them yesterday. Perfect. Randall Erickson, what's going on? Randall, the newest member to the Patreon group, I believe. So cheers, Randall. Thanks for hanging out. Got Marty, of course, and we'll bring him on in just a moment. Corvette Trey, what's going on? We were just talking about you. We were talking about what we're going to do with those blind flights that you sent us. So we'll talk more about that. Let's see. Chris Jenkins, what's going on, Chris? Speak of the devil, there's Keith G. Keith is who I was just talking about that put us in touch here with Logan. So thanks for hanging out, Keith. Jeffrey Wack, hello again, whiskey friend. Saw this all over Northern Kentucky this week for the first time. So the timing is impeccable. Cool. Jeff. So we'll see if these are good. I think they've won some awards, so we'll get into them here in just a bit. Cheers, Katie. What's going on? Let's see. I think we're caught up here. Sugar Kitty, what's going on? Meow. Let's bring on Marty. Ty. There he is, the legend. Happening? What's going on, buddy?
Oh, dude, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, the last time we did something like this, it was with Greg over at Let.
Yeah, it was.
If you remember, he was a bit late coming on,
and then it turned epic.
It did, but to his credit, Logan's here on time. We'll bring him on in just a moment. But yeah, I appreciate Logan for showing up on time and being punctual. He's on Eastern Standard Time, whereas Greg might have been on Australian time. I don't remember. It ended up being a blast, right?
It did, and we learned a lot, and we ended up getting some more good stuff from Greg in the future, and still working with him. I talked to him, I guess, end of last week, trying to get some things going for the Puffs and Pours group with maybe a single barrel and some cigars. So remember that. He was all into that. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep everybody updated on how that works out. Katie and Ethan will be the first to get that out to the group. So,
all right. So you got the samples that I sent you from the Bond. All right. I'm assuming you haven't touched them yet, right?
No, I have just poured into the first glass the 4-year. I haven't.
Gotcha. And I think that's where we're going to start here in just a moment. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves here, why don't we bring on the man of the hour here?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
All right. So this is Logan. Is it Buchanan?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
right,
I was going to say, usually that's tricky for people, but you got it on the first try, so bonus points for you.
And the name of the brand is The Bond.
Yes.
And, Logan, I was telling Marty, I was doing a little bit of homework earlier about the brand and about you. And to be honest, going in, I didn't really know anything. So this
Mhm.
was kind of like just a brand new, let's see what this is. And I did find some really interesting facts
Mhm.
about yourself and the brand. Um, before I tell you what I learned, why don't you maybe start by telling us here um, how you got your start, how the brand started? Because I understand it's fairly new, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The brands are both about a year old. I was going to say the Bond that officially turned a year old in April, and then Thornbush, our flavored whiskey, will actually turn a year old in July. So, yeah, relatively new, based out of Bardstown, Kentucky. Really, kind of how I got into it was I went to college at the University of Kentucky for ag and medical biotechnology. I found out very quickly that I wasn't meant to be in a lab for the rest of my life. I needed something a little more akin to the farm work I was used to. And so I was like, well, let's see what else I can explore. And so one of the electives classes was a distilling class. And it was offered for the first year. It was at the University of Kentucky. And it was kind of just the basics of spirits, of learning about rums and whiskeys and brandies and kind of what makes each spirit its own thing. And so that really kind of kickstarted my whole career into the spirits industry. I took that class and absolutely loved it. And then from there, I did some research with Dr. DeBolt, the director for the Beam Institute. I got to work with a distillery and a cooperage there. And then after college, I got to reconnect with two of my best friends on a barrel hedge fund based here out of Bardstown. So starting in 2021, we started amassing an inventory of about 6,500 barrels. And so mostly that's what we're picking from for these. And then from there, that
6,500.
yes.
Okay, so this is not a small operation.
Yeah. So some from Kentucky, some from North Carolina, some from Indiana, kind of spread out across the U.S. But yeah.
So when you went to UK,
Mm-hmm.
that was not your end game, was to come out and be a whiskey blender.
No, to be honest with you, there's not really a set course to do that. It was something I dreamed of. I was a whiskey fan far before I was a whiskey maker or whiskey blender. And it got to a point where, I was the one standing in lines and waiting at drops and trying to get bottles. And I was going to say, as you can see my collection behind me here, it probably reflects that. But yeah, that's really kind of where I got my start, and knew that I kind of wanted to get into spirits, but knew that I didn't really have a connection to it. So I'm the only person in my family who isn't a teacher, actually. So my sister's an ag teacher, my dad's a superintendent. So yeah, it was kind of something that seemed out of reach for me, and then all of a sudden it was just here.
So how, I can remember, and Marty, you can chime in here. When I'm in college, I'm not blending whiskey, and if I was, it was probably maybe at the end of the night, whatever's left, pouring it into a cup or something. How did you get into blending?
But sorry, go ahead.
And I thought, how did you get into the blending aspect? Because to me, it seems relatively kind of far down the rabbit hole of getting into whiskey is getting into blending.
Yeah. So kind of for me, it started with more so just developing my palate. So whenever I turned 21, UK, they actually allow you to enroll in a class called Wine Appreciation. And so what it is it's a semester-long wine tasting course where you go through regions throughout the world and get to taste 5 or 6 different wines a week. And basically the only task there was just tell the class what you taste. There was no right answer. There was no wrong answer. It was just being able to verbalize it is the true power there. And that's what really kind of started helping me develop my palate and being able to say, like, okay, well, I taste caramel in this, or I taste, pear or a chocolate or something else. And so that really kind of got me a foundation there. And then it's been a lot of learning along the way. So I've got to learn from a lot of really great people at Whiskey Thief Distillery. I've got to learn from people like Nancy Fraley, who I just thank so much. I'm so blessed to be able to kind of have their support and that knowledge passed to me.
Yeah, she's a rookie.
Marty's actually a relative somehow of Nancy Fraley.
Really?
Yeah,
that's awesome. She's
we try to keep that quiet because I'm a total idiot, and she's fantastic, and I don't want to jeopardize Oh, wait a minute. You're related to Marty? What? No, you can't blend this. You know?
He doesn't let
Never
it
mind,
against
never mind.
yourself.
I think she's proven she can do it. So I'm not real
Yeah.
concerned on how I'm going to, but no, that's, one thing you said, Logan, during your explanation there was, and I think that's what drew me and Tom and a lot of people that are in the chat to this and kind of keep going is nobody's wrong. That's the thing is go find me I've preached it. Go find me something else in this world you can do with a group of people and nobody's wrong.
Yep.
It's fantastic. So
yep. It's each person has their own interpretation of it, and that's what I love so much. The only boundaries really that you kind of have within your operation is how creative you can get. And that's, like I said, coming from a farming background, it's one of these industries that's kind of an artisan nature. You have to spend some time learning. You got to know how to do it the right way, and how to, handle your craft. So that's what made me fall in love with it in the first place, really.
Good. Well,
right.
I'm looking forward to what you got here and learning more about your brand and excited because, we know as much about new distilleries, new blenders, as much as we can. We try to learn as much as we can because for us, that's where the joy is and some of the great spirits are. I mean, we can talk about big distilleries. We can go on about Woodford, Turkey, Beam, all these places, but it seems like all these barrel picks that we're doing as groups and everything are from, blenders and non-distilling places. So that's what's fun. So it's a thrill to have you here with Tom and me and let's get after it, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to get you going.
But before we talk about the first product here, now Logan, I'm familiar with the Beam Institute down in Kentucky. And I actually was, when I was down there last year, I got something of a private tour.
Yeah.
Because one of my I have a family member who's on the faculty there.
Okay.
So I was texting with her earlier to see if she, if your name rang a bell. Because she was also in biochem.
Okay.
So we talk more about that after, but I thought that was really interesting. So did you get to see and because it's fairly new, right? The Beam project.
Yes, so very new. So unfortunately, I was graduated by the time the distillery was operational.
Gotcha.
And so that was, I think I graduated in May of 2022 and it opened in the fall of 2022.
Gotcha.
So I just missed it barely, but I kind of got to reap the benefits more so on like the academic side of things, and kind of the partnerships that they were bringing in there, more so than learning to distill. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I may actually go back and learn how to distill and how to do it the right way. But
I mean, those facilities are just insane.
Yeah, I mean, having access to a Vendome column and all that in college is just wow. Just stay.
For those of you that aren't familiar, it's like it's a miniature distillery on campus at UK, complete. And what I got to see when I was there last year, they had just finished like their mini rick house. So the rick house was completely built, and I think they only had maybe a dozen barrels in there total. So it's this big empty space. So you can appreciate like the architecture and the design that goes into building a rick house. And I just thought it was the coolest thing.
Yeah, I was actually there this week, and they had a conference room table full of samples. They were pulling them for research and sensory analysis, just kind of going through them, and it's awesome. I got a bottle of the Wild Cask, their first release. It was actually a bourbon created by students in a class. So the project or the final for the whole semester was coming out with this brand. And so now here in Kentucky, you can go to Liquor Barn and stores all across the state and find it. And it's really awesome to see students going out and doing that.
And I'm almost surprised that UK or one of the other universities down there didn't think of that idea sooner, that tie-in. I mean, because to me, Logan, that's about as Kentucky as it gets, right?
Yeah, I was going to say UK is really unique with that. They have a really great equine science program, very Kentucky as well, with Keeneland and all the thoroughbreds and the Derby, and then they have a really good mining engineering program. A lot of these actually they draw students from out of state, and UK says, well, we know your home state may not offer this, or a college in your home state may not offer this, so you can come in and take it here.
All right, so let's talk about how this brand came to be. So it's you and a couple of your buddies from UK, right?
Yeah. So it was actually I met two of my best friends, Ben and William, my first week at UK, and so kind of upon meeting them, they're both a couple years older than me. They're like, "Yeah, if you need help with accounting or like an economics class, let us know. Like, here's our phone numbers." And I said, "Well, guys, like I'm a science major. I don't think I'm ever going to have to take that." And they said, well, just keep in touch anyway. We'll be friends. And so that's kind of how everything started. And from there, as I said, I got back together with them after college and started working on the barrel hedge fund. And then that eventually morphed into our brand portfolio. So our brand portfolio is called Vincero Spirits. So that encompasses the Bond and then Thornbush, and then hopefully some other brands down the road as well. That's really kind of how we got started in this is they were finance minded and I was bourbon minded, and I would get samples across my desk kind of to evaluate for investments, and they were just too good to pass up on. And I said, guys, we've got to bottle some of these. And I guess after wearing them down for months and months and months of asking, we finally got to put a bottle out. And so our first bottles were actually the Bond. So that came before Thornbush, but we did a 4-year-old MGP 21 rye. And that's the blue label there.
That's this one here.
Yes. And so those are actually barrels from a Smooth Ambler lot. So they were left over. Smooth Ambler wasn't going to use them. And we ended up buying those from MGP. And then the black label that you picked up there, that's the Bond Eternal. That's a 7-year MGP 36% rye. And that spent part of its life in Montana and then the other part at MGP, and then finished for about a year in Kentucky. So that one's sporting a little higher age statement, but both are bottled in Bond. So yeah, excited for you to try it.
So tell me about the name, what it means, how you agreed on that name.
Yeah. So really kind of how that got started is while Ben and William and I were all in college, we had a couple of friends of ours, a roommate and then another really good friend pass away. And so one night while we were traveling for work, actually for the hedge fund, we were sitting down having a drink and said, what would we do to have a drink with them? To be able to just sit down and hear them tell another story or hear another joke, and kind of remember them in that way. And so that really gave us the idea for this brand, because we all kind of realized that bourbon is something that we cherish with friends. We like to share pours with people and, if do tastings and that type of thing. And bourbon's always that kind of foot in the door of being a good friend. So that was kind of where we got the start of this.
Yeah, I think we can agree that, one of the things I'll come back to on whiskey is that it brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not, arguing about, politics or this or that, or it's, when I'm hanging out with Marty, I mean, it's, this bourbon, that whiskey, this rye, this distillery, it's, a complete escape from, everything else. That common, that bond does bring people together. So I thought that was cool. I was checking around your website as I mentioned earlier. So why don't we do this, Marty? Why don't we pour a little bit of this 4-year?
All right.
And this one is just called the Bond, right? Logan?
Yeah. So this is our flagship product. So this is supposed to be kind of like your more generic bourbon, kind of like a Buffalo Trace, kind of very vanilla, caramel, cream forward, with a little bit of sweetness. For me, I kind of view a 4-year age statement as something that people kind of look down upon. I've heard that in the past that people say, well, 4 years isn't old enough. So I kind of tried to take that and use it for the good. So in a lot of young bourbons, you get a really great kind of grainy note. And so I tried to use that to make it sweeter. So you may get a little bit of ethanol because of the age, but it'll have a lot of sweetness from that kind of toasted grain note.
I can think of a lot of things offhand that are pretty darn good at 4 years. But yeah, I get what you're saying about, people, maybe gravitating more towards things that are higher aged.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, I guess as a non-distilling producer, that was something that kind of crossed my mind. For distilleries, that's a little easier to get away with. But I thought we had some really stellar barrels here.
All right, and this, you said the mash bill again was a lower rye, Logan?
Yes, so it's a 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley. And so all these are 4-barrel blends. So I really look for 4 key flavors in each blend. So whenever I developed them in the first place, I tried to find something that I could replicate that would give it a lot of really great character that shone through in these barrels. And so actually in finding each one of these flavors, I was able to find out that I could move barrels to different parts of the rick house to kind of achieve that. So if I want something a little oakier, I actually move the next 4 or 5 batches worth of barrels to the top of the rick house to let them age and get that oakier note to them. Or if I want something a little more mellow, I'll bring them down closer to the floor and let them sit there for a little while.
So to me, on the nose, I get like a lot of buttercream, vanilla type vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that's kind of similar to like what I get when I drink like a regular Buffalo Trace, which is, obviously, what is that, like 90 proof, 92 proof?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, a good, I would call this like a good opener. It's kind of like awakening my senses, bringing, me a familiar note that I enjoy, which is, the buttercream toffee.
There's a sugar cherry kicking now a little bit.
Yeah. Marty has a much more complicated palate than I do.
I'm just stuck on, I get these notes and I just dig for it.
I was going to say, are you able to toss like brand names and that type of thing in there as well on your tasting notes?
We try to guess, but we're terrible at it.
Yeah, we'll do blind flights and games and stuff like that, but to actually get something, from the right distillery is tricky. I mean, MGP sometimes, because it's so, broad, can be something we can pick up on, but
it's a lot kind of just depends on which where. Yeah, sorry. A lot just depends on which warehouse it's stored in, and even where the barrels are aged. An MGP aged in Indiana all its life versus in Kentucky all its life is completely different. I usually get kind of a chalky note on MGP, or some MGPs, some younger MGPs. I didn't get that very much on this one, and a lot of people ask me kind of the big question: why MGP? Why not Kentucky or Bardstown Bourbon Company or something? And for me, it was actually the most consistent bourbon I was able to find on the market. So I sampled through 10 distilleries, and these were the best by far, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a reason why just about everybody that's starting up and they're sourcing barrels, they were sourcing from MGP. I mean, they're damn good. And,
there's a nice oatiness.
I wonder if that's what he's characterizing as chalkiness.
Yeah, maybe.
Just nice little oat spice. Yeah, this is fantastic on the nose. I like the cherry wood. I think it's very nice. It's got nice legs
too.
too.
A fruity note in the middle on the palate. Yeah, it's got the nice stretch marks, Marty, on the glass.
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah, I
Palate's
red
matching the
vine.
nose.
I'm looking at Northwest Bourbon's comment here. He says, "I get red vines on most MGPs. Maybe it's the power of suggestion, but I looked at it. I'm like, man, that's almost like red licorice, cherry licorice a little bit. That's a good call out, Northwest. I'm such an MGP.
I hear you on that.
All right, so these are bottled in bond, then, Logan.
Yeah, so both of these are bottled in bond, 100 proof.
Okay. So you're not proofing anything down. This is where they're.
Well, so to get to 100 proof, I'll have to proof down about 20 proof points, but everything's in accordance to the Bottled in Bond Act with how these are produced, even down to how they're aged. So.
So when you do, you said a 4-barrel blend,
Mm-hmm.
and you're proofing down to 100.
Mm-hmm.
What's a typical yield? Is it like a 1,000?
Roughly about 1,000 bottles. Yeah, we'll
Okay.
we'll get about 1,000 bottles a batch. I think batch 3 for the Bond Eternal. I believe that's actually batch 4. But batch 3, we had a short barrel that we threw in the mix. That ended up yielding about 10 or 15 gallons of liquid. So that came out to about like 700 bottles.
Oh wow, yeah, that's
Okay.
really cool, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I was pretty disappointed by it, but I was just happy it wasn't empty, and happy it was at
Yeah.
least good. So, but yeah, we put a little bit in that one, or put that barrel in batch number 3, and that lowered the bottle count down a little bit, but usually around 1,000 on the 7-year. Sometimes we'll get up into the 1,200 range on the 4-year. It just depends on the yield on those barrels.
So how do you get to the point where you are okay? So you've picked out what you want to bottle.
Mhm.
Right? So you get your bottles made. How do you figure out where you're going to sell them? You know, are you in touch with local stores first? Are you trying the online thing first? How do you how are you starting that process?
Yeah, really, it's a lot of trial and error. I mean, I know that probably sounds like a very generic answer, but for us, that's kind of what we found. You know, we don't have a spirits veteran on our team that's been in the industry for 20, 30 years. It's guys that have graduated from college in the past 5, 10 years and are trying to figure it out. And so it's a lot of work and just kind of willpower of just grinding it out. And, you know, for us, we had to find a distributor first. So we were lucky enough to work with Heritage Distributing here in Kentucky. You know, at the top of the podcast, I heard you say, you know, they're didn't really hear about them. You know, we're not widely distributed. We're only available in Kentucky in stores at the moment,
Okay.
but we do ship online. And
And I
so
saw that
for
it
us,
looks like it was about 38 states.
Yeah, I put up in the chat where they didn't go to
Okay.
kind of narrow it down.
Oh, I see that. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So if you want to see these on the shelves, it's only in Kentucky.
Yes.
So it's going to be kind of like a grassroots type thing where you got to know what it is to find you online. So
and I know Top Jimmy's had them. He's got every bottle. He's told me.
Yeah, I remember he mentioned that, and I was wondering, Jimmy, tell us in the chat, how did you come across this brand? Did you find him on another social media platform, or how'd you come across the brand? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were talking about it beforehand.
To mention is, you said none of us had any real experience.
Yeah.
So that kind of strikes me as the guys out of college, instead of trying to go to work at a big firm or a big distillery or a big company and having somebody show them the ropes, you're just like, what, the heck with it, let's just do it. We'll learn from our own mistakes and we'll take the risks ourselves. And I think that's real noble.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I was going to say we each kind of had a little bit of a different background, kind of a more corporate background before getting into this. I worked a full-time job actually as a junior in college, so I was working full-time while going to school full-time. And then my coworker Ben did as well, and so did William. So we kind of all had a little taste of that, and then decided, well, let's try this out and see what we can do. And that's really what made us kind of take the jump of doing that. But it's been a lot of just kind of grinding it out and hard work. And we've got a phenomenal sales team. Ben, Molly, and Parker, they're traveling every single day, going to stores, meeting liquor store owners, and trying to get it on shelves and actually get people to try it, because that's the biggest hurdle.
Logan, I'm getting I've gone to it about 3 times now, and just with this, I guess this particular blend on the finish, I could feel that. Was it 21% rye?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of heat to it.
Yeah, I can feel the rye spice just kick in as it kind of dissipates a little bit on the back end. So it's very pleasant. I think it's nice.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, Marty. I think it's pleasant, because to me it hits like those friendly, lighter sweet notes, not like the overly sweet notes, but just the right amount of sweetness from the front of the palate, like the vanilla, the buttercream, and then there's a little bit of fruit for me in the middle, which is almost like just like a kiss of like red licorice. The finish it's not overly long. I mean, it's 100 proof. but it does leave like a nice residual.
Yeah, it's
flavor.
nice. It's nice.
It's like that, like the buttercream, I think, is what's
yeah. Kind of which batches are we currently sipping? Tom,
right,
this might be on your bottle.
So this is batch 2, bottle 200.
Okay.
And so you said you were up to what, Logan? You say 3 for this one now?
Yeah, I was going to say, so we're up to batch 3. I was doing a little math this morning. The ages on those may change here soon, may go up a little bit. But yeah, there's been 3 batches of that one, and then we're on to the 4th one of the 7-year.
Logan, let me ask you a question. Are you doing any experimental rebarreling?
So I am actually. I was going to say I've got a bottle sitting here right next to me that, as you can see, it's about out. So this is actually an orange dreamsicle finish. So what I did is I took 4-year-old, just benchmark foolproof, and then put it into a vanilla brandy barrel for 3 weeks. Then put it into an orange curacao barrel for 12 days, and then back into the vanilla brandy barrel for another 10 days. So kind of to get that vanilla on both the front end and the back end. So yeah, this I'm doing all this type of stuff all the time. I was going to say I've got a ginger beer back here that I'm working on, like a ginger beer barrel finish, and then I've done a honey and Madeira barrel finish as well.
Sweet.
Oh, that sounds pretty wild. That first one, especially.
Yeah. It's that one kind of blows people away. You don't expect it to be kind of as balanced as it is. You think it's like, oh, a lot of orange or too much vanilla, but it's kind of right in the middle there.
Good.
But yeah, I'm excited for the ginger beer one.
So any plans to like, upscale some of those and make them part of your line, or are you still kind of experimenting?
I think still kind of experimenting at this point. The big thing for us is just that the demand's there. We'd be willing to do it. For me, it's kind of my passion projects at the moment of just kind of trying to push the boundaries and see what works and what doesn't. Yeah, and kind of trying to do it the all natural way of, actually using like authentic spirits barrels that we work with people to obtain directly from the source. So
yeah, Chris, that I agree with you, man. That does sound really interesting.
I was going to say, I'll send out a sample if you'd like.
Shit, I would love that.
yeah, I'll send out a sample. I'll put it on my to-do list tomorrow morning.
So earlier I mentioned that Marty and I had Greg from Larrikin on earlier this year, and it's another new brand. I don't know if you've heard of them or not, being down there, being more plugged into the community, but it seemed to me like what the direction that they were going, and there's even another brand that we had on. I don't know if it was late last year or early this year, Marty. We had Tom from Limestone Farms.
Yeah, Tom Morrow. Yeah, but
it seemed like when you're super small, trying to get the word out. One way to go is to get in touch with some of us idiots who are here on YouTube or Instagram, and get us talking about it, and a few other people will hear it and want to talk about it. If you kind of like real grassroots, building it up organically as you possibly can. It seemed like a real interesting way to kind of build your brand, and it seems to me like those two places have really done pretty well, at least from outward impressions. It looks to me like they're building their brands really well.
Yeah,
is that kind of what some of the things that you're doing? You mentioned you've got a team out there. So what's the path? What's the route as far as is trying to market the brand?
Yeah. I was going to say, Greg and the Larrikin team are great friends of ours. We actually did an event at Bourbon Festival with them this past year.
Okay.
And yeah, they've been doing great. They've been growing like crazy. And for me, kind of, it's just listening to what the consumers want, but also trying to be realistic. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I was a whiskey fan far before I was a whiskey maker or a blender or anything else. I still go out hunting for bottles. I still have things I'm trying to find, or I send pictures to my sister of and say, hey, if you see this in the store, can you get this? So yeah, I still kind of try to bring that to the business of like knowing like, okay, I don't want to put out outrageously priced bottles. I don't want to put out stuff that's unaffordable. I want to put out really great quality products that are accessible and affordable. And, you made a really great point of, the kind of the grassroots way in today's day and age is the best way to do it. We always say we have to own our backyard. Before we try to put a bottle in every state, we need to make sure people here know us and have tried us. And kind of our mission is liquor to lips of being able to get people to try it and see, okay, we do have a really great quality product, even though you may see MGP on the back label.
I've never had
maybe blackberry.
That's a good call out. Liquor to lips.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So I did see on your site when I was, kind of playing around here earlier, you mentioned that you were at which which event did you just mention?
So we did a bourbon festival event with Larrikin.
Okay, so then, but you were also at a few of these other big events last year.
I was gonna say, yeah, we did Bourbon on the Banks in Frankfurt, and then we did the Bruzel Whiskey Festival as well. So I got to
participate. Was that in Alabama or was that in Kentucky?
So that was in Opelika. So that was like right outside of Auburn. I think fortunately they were playing an away game that weekend, so we didn't have to deal with all the traffic.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, we have got to go to some really cool events. I mean, Bourbon on the Banks for us we'll get to it later, but the first kind of big launch event for Thornbush. And within VIP, we had a line of people, and we didn't end up without one the rest of the day. So it was really cool to kind of see that reception of people. It may have been that it was 95 degrees outside and we were the only drink with ice, but it was still kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I will tell you what, I enjoy this. This again, it's just called the Bond Batch 2. This is the 4-year age stated, 100 proofer. Absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's
good. I love the finish. I love that rye finish.
I think it's a great beginning of the night pour, or even if it's maybe you're going to have more than a pour or two. You're going to hang out maybe outside or something, and it's hot. You want something that's not 120 proof. I think this is going to be something that kind of fits that.
It hits the spot. Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And the price point, so you sell these through your site as well. So the price tag on this one is $60.
Yes, I was going to say $59.99, $60, and then $79.99 for the 7-year.
All right. And while we're here, and I'm thinking about it, Logan, you had sent us like a code if somebody's wanting to go to your site and put an order in. Tyler, if you're listening, why don't you put that on the screen so everyone can see that?
Yeah, I was going to say it's the code is Logan5. You can go to thebondbourbon.com or thornbushwhiskey.com and make it a little cheaper for you.
There you go. Logan5 at checkout, save you a couple of bucks. There you go.
Sweet.
That's a good.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I appreciate y'all having me on, and anything I can do to kind of show the love back to y'all, I'd be more than happy to. So,
Top Jimmy's got a question. Tom, I don't know if you see it.
Okay. How much batch variation are you seeing, Logan?
It's only a slight variation. So the biggest thing for me I can sense right now is kind of the ethanol note on it. So batch 3 of the 7-year had a little bit more of like an ethanol forward note to it than what batch 4 does. Personally, I think batch 4 is our best batch of the 7-year that we've put out yet. It drinks a little bit smoother. It has a little bit more flavor to it. And I guess the best way to kind of put it is reserved. I kind of try to tame in the flavor with that one. It is 100 proof. We all know that 7-year MGP 36 rye are phenomenal. So this kind of brings you the highlights of those flavors and kind of, transforms them in that way. So I'm seeing a little bit of variation, but I'm trying my best to stick to those 4 core notes. And actually, like when I'm picking through barrels, if I don't taste that, I'll put the barrel back and let it age for a little bit longer.
It's interesting that you say that. So when you're tasting through all these barrels, and obviously there's a lot of them, right? So you're trying to find 4 core notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Marty, I at some point, Jason had Ryan Cecil on from Pursuit.
Yeah.
And I want to say that's almost exactly how he explained his process was he's got 3 or 4 core notes and he's looking for the barrels that have this one, it's either like the vanilla or the oak or the fruit, and then he kind of figures out how he wants to put them together. But it sounds like you guys are kind of on the same, at least conceptually, on the same plane as far as that goes. So is that like a common approach with master blenders? Is that just kind of how you what works for you?
Yeah, so that's kind of what works for me. That's something I've kind of adapted. So I also do kind of like the 4 roses, proofing it down to 40 proof to test for any defects or anything before I put it in the blend. Whenever I proof it down that low, anything that's like if it's overly oaky or if it has an off note, or actually if the grain isn't covered up all the way with a tarp on its way to the distillery, it can taste like diesel in the final product. So looking for things like that just to make sure we're putting the best blend in there. But yeah, I would say probably conceptually we're on the same page of, having these big, bold flavors that we're looking for. And then single barrels are great because they kind of give you the best of both worlds of those subtle flavors and then those big, bold, powerful flavors. Whereas I'm kind of focusing on the bolder ones at the moment.
Interesting.
So, just kind of rounding up or circling back to Jimmy's comment, as far as the few batches that you've done of the Bond, if you were to line them up one next to each other and try them blind, would you be able to identify them? Or are you going to feel like they're pretty consistent? And is that kind of what you're going for?
Yeah, I would say they're very consistent. So that's actually whenever I go blending, I have aged in ore bottle bag, and I bring all the batches that I've done with me, and I actually taste it side by side to make sure it matches up. Because I don't want somebody going to the store and getting, batch 1 and then picking up batch 3 and saying, well, this isn't the same. I don't like this anymore.
Right.
So I kind of want to try to deliver that same experience every single time.
Good.
All right.
Yeah, you want to stay consistent. I get it.
Yeah, I was going to say, the single barrel, like I said, the single barrels are fun because they allow you that kind of space to do unique things and find unique expressions. But to me, finding consistency in something is really cool. Just because it's really easy to dump 100 barrels and put it into a vat somewhere and have it kind of coagulate together. Whereas if you go down to 10 barrels or 5 barrels or 2 barrels, you have to be a lot more intentional with your choices.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you run into this problem? Do you go and like, let's say you thieve some, let's say 5 barrels, this sitting or whatever, and one of them is just like blows your socks off. Like this is just a completely different profile of what I'm trying to blend, but it is so good. Do you just kind of say, okay, Logan, let's just put this back here for a little bit and see what happens? Or do you want to go ahead and try to make it adapt to that blend then? Or do you want to see what special action you can get from that single barrel?
Yeah. So at that point, I kind of like to see the special action I can get from the single barrel.
Okay.
So if it's, it'll kind of give me like a few notes, so it may be like a little oaky, really fruity, really kind of caramel, vanilla forward. And I may know I kind of want to mellow that oak out a little bit so that it's like this really sweet kind of confectionery type bourbon. So I may move that to a certain part of the warehouse to let it age for a little bit longer. And get it to a point where I do like it. But I'll be kind of monitoring that one. And every time I go in and get samples and go to blend, checking on it just to kind of see where it is and moving it where it needs to be. All
right, real quick here, Logan. It says, Corvette Trey says, it just bought the Eternal. Just FYI, the Logan 5 code didn't work. Is it a 0 or an O? I would assume it's an O.
I was going to say, I think it's an O. I apologize, guys. I'll talk with our marketing team about it, and then I'll send you everything. If you don't mind throwing it in the description. Does that work for y'all?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. We'll figure it out. It looks like
sorry again.
A couple of orders coming through. So, all right. So let's talk about the 7-year now.
Yeah. So this one's a little bit of a switch up. What'd you say? Sorry.
It's a different profile, right? Because it's a different mash bill.
Yeah, different mash bill, different profile. It's going to be definitely a little different experience than what the 4-year is. So this one was my baby. I was able, whenever we first started things, to convince them like, hey, let's do a limited edition run of 7-year bourbon kind of as a kickoff of things. And then we did, and everybody liked it so well, we kept on bringing it back and made it a main staple line. So this is a 7-year MGP 36% rye. I'm a big wild turkey fan. I like those kind of funky notes, the very kind of borderline over tannic oaky notes. But I love them kind of reined back a little bit, those sweet oaks and kind of those stag type notes that they bring. So I kind of tried to bring that into this one. So it's a little oaky. It's got a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of fruit in there as well. And it has kind of a lingering finish to it too.
All right. So on
Would
the
this
bottle,
be considered small batch, Logan, on this for you?
Yes, I would.
4 to 7 barrels. Is that what this one is?
So this one is 4 barrels, but 7 years.
Okay.
all right. So on this bottle, the label is a little bit different. It's like a grayish, whereas opposed to the first one is kind of like on a bluish border.
Mm-hmm.
And this one actually has a tag on it, Logan, and it says award-winning bourbon, and it's got. Is this the American Spirits? I saw that you had entered these in a couple of different competitions, and you had won some awards. Why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. We've actually thankfully done very well in competitions. So last year, the 4-year-old was actually the first blend that I'd ever made, and so for the first time, we sent that into the American Distillers Institute competition, the Ascot Awards. And then the New York Wine and Spirits competition as well. So for a 4-year, that actually got double platinum at the Ascot Awards. So that was in the top 20 or 25 best bourbons under 5 years old, or best small batch bourbons under 5 years old. And then the 7-year got gold there at ADI, both got gold. And then in New York, both got gold as well, I believe. And then this year, we actually found out that the 7-year was made a finalist for Best Bottled and Bond Whiskey at the American Distillers Institute International Spirits Competition.
Wow.
So that's awesome. I mean, it's a brand new brand. I mean, that is kind of the great equalizer, right? You're entering these competitions and everything is blind. So, the giant marketing arm of Wild Turkey or whoever doesn't really factor in. It's blind. Everything's on a level playing field. So
yeah, so that made me really excited to kind of hear that. I thought for a little while that with the 7-year we had something special, and then to kind of hear that and get that I guess feedback was great for me. So
yeah, positive reinforcement certainly doesn't hurt the enthusiasm about moving forward, right? I mean,
yeah, especially in the bourbon industry.
So I imagine, I mean, there's days where I'm sure things seem like, oh my God, there's so many things on the market, and there's this and there's that, and the market's down or whatever. But when you have, something like this, and that's got to really lift your spirits.
Absolutely.
Definitely seeing the chocolate note that this one calls out.
Yeah, like a subtle fruitiness on the nose of this one.
Yeah.
Almost floral. Reset.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of I would say that's probably one of my house notes is like a floral note. I really like kind of the delicate floral notes, and that unfortunately kind of comes through sometimes. But some people,
I'm not saying that is something that I don't like. I'm just trying to describe it as best I can. Which, I'm an amateur here.
Yeah.
But it's a nice, like you said, delicate. It's a lighter note. It's
got a little funk, little worldly.
Okay, that's a good way to bring it around.
Good funk, funky cold Medina. I tell you, Logan, the first two things I notice about when these first two whiskeys hit the palate is mouthfeel is there. To be as young as they are, there's a great mouthfeel, and I don't think this one's a high rye too. And it like 21. What'd you say it was?
So this one's 36. So this is even higher.
This one's up there.
Yeah,
I don't get the crazy burn, but I get enough to know that the rye is there, which is nice. It's a great balance, I think. Tom, what do you think? I don't think the rye.
I'm getting like a bit of cracked pepper at the end there, so I do feel like that rye is shining through a little bit. Yeah, that is funky is a good way to describe this one. Again, like fruity and floral up front for me. Palate is, I would say it's well-rounded.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, yeah, that rye does kind of shine through.
Yeah, I like that.
A little spice, a little black pepper, but yeah, I almost think that the younger one finishes a little longer.
I think so. I agree.
I was going to say the heat kind of does that for the younger one. It makes it stick around a little longer. This one, the first couple batches, the batch 4 isn't nearly as tannic, I will say. I was able to find some stellar barrels that were like a sweet oak that stuck around a little longer, but they weren't like dry your tongue out, like coffin in the corner type oaky. So I think I'm beginning to kind of find a medium here. So.
All right. So Keith, and I know he mentioned this to me somewhere else too. He says that you're making a guitar.
Yeah. So that's
you're a man of many skills.
I was gonna say, jack of all trades, master of none, maybe.
Okay.
So yeah, I was gonna say, actually, whenever I'm not doing bourbon, I like playing guitar. I'm not great at it, so I was like, well, I can start building myself some just to see if I can do it and challenge myself. So I started making some guitars a couple years ago. I've built 3 now. And I have 2 or 3 more in the works. And so actually, whenever I went and got training from Nancy and learned from her, I told her, I said, like you're one of my heroes, of seeing you blend and do things like Joseph Magnus and Still Austin and seeing what you're capable of. It's really awesome just to kind of keep up with that. And I said, I know you play guitar. I know you love guitars. If you'd ever want me to build you a guitar sometime, let me know. And immediately she was like, absolutely. Just tell me when and where, I'll be there. So we're still working on all the details on it of what color it's going to be and materials and all that. But I'm excited to get something made for her.
So you're a very hands-on type of dude.
Yeah. I was going to say, I like being able to kind of have the knowledge to back it up or know kind of the textbook knowledge of it and then actually go out and do it too. So,
all right. So Chris asks, I play a little guitar. What style do you like?
So I like a little bit of everything. I was going to say, you all can't see it right now. I've got concert posters actually up all over my office of shows I've been to, but I'm a really big kind of blues fan. So like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, like the John Mayer trio, kind of his blues outfit, classic rock as well, like Led Zeppelin. I really like the Eagles, Grateful Dead. And then a lot of like indie and kind of modern bands too. And kind of like Kentucky-centric bands as well. So I've been to probably 150 concerts at this point.
Oh, wow.
Everything from like Barry Manilow to Tyler Childers or Sturgill Simpson. So
you're all over the place. That's wild.
Yeah.
All right. So I got to say this. I got to mention this before I forget.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was looking at your site and trying to, come up with a few things to talk about when you were coming on here tonight, one of the things I clicked on is a video, and it's an interview from a television, like a news channel last year.
Yeah.
And now I don't know how this is measured, but what the assertion is that you're the world's youngest master blender.
Yes, I believe our marketing department did the research on that.
Okay.
But the previous person or previous individual was a Scotch blender for Diageo. And she was 26 years old whenever she was put into that position. And so I started blending when I was 24. So technically, whenever I blended the first round of the Bond, I had just turned, or I was about to turn 24, was 23. But since then, I've grown up a little bit, 25 now. I've still got a year unless somebody takes that crown from me.
Yeah, I thought you did a real nice job on the interview. You came off, really mature, very well-spoken for, in my opinion, a kid.
Well, thank you. I was going to say it's a blessing and a curse. I was going to say not too many people my age want to hear me ramble on about whiskey, but I'm lucky to have a few friends that do.
That's a good point to bring up, Logan. I really didn't get into whiskey until probably I was in my late 30s, maybe even 40. And if I had really, paid attention or gotten into it in college like you did, I wonder, how much, if I would have been, super knowledgeable, have a great palate, or
or what if I would have been burnt out and been onto something else. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I do think it's really fascinating that, you know, as a a college student, you kind of started to get into it.
Mhm.
So, you know, good for you. You know, and again, it kind of harkens back to, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what some of your beliefs are, how old you are, you know, what state you're, you know, this is something that does bring people together. So
Mhm.
I think it's really cool to see somebody, you know, your age getting into it.
Well, I tell you what's cool is I know, you know, the age thing kind of gets you a little bit, Logan, as in people, we wear it out because we're in all of it. We wish we were you. But you're at a point in your life to where when you start developing whiskeys, you'll be able to see some of your older stuff come to life, to where a lot of master distillers only see 2 or 3 batches come to life of their older stuff. So that's one thing great about you getting into it at the point in your life where you have, because you'll have the opportunity to be able to go through this stuff and provide for the future. And I just want to say cheers to you for that, man, because I that's special. So,
well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think you put that in a very great way. You know, I always grew up with the adage of, as a farmer, you never know how many crops you're going to have.
yeah.
I guess I've adopted that as a blender. You never know how many batches you get to make. So I try to make each one the best. And love getting to learn with each one. And that's what made me fall in love with distilling is I can spend an entire lifetime in this industry and I'll still never know everything. There'll always be something new I can learn about, something new I can try to do, or I can come up with or some new way of doing something.
Yeah.
So it's always finding that next thing. So
I will say, as I'm drinking more of this, the Eternal, it is I would describe it as like a building type finish. As you know, I can feel it changing a little bit, and maybe kind of like, you know, more and more is kind of settling in, and I'm getting more like a confectionery sugar, like vanilla wafer, like almost like those like waffle wafers that you can get that are almost like all sugar.
Oh,
Like
the Stroop waffles.
There's like the strawberry, the chocolate, and the vanilla.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
like that. Like those are kind of some of the notes I'm getting here. It's kind of building and settling on the palate. It's really nice.
Yeah, that they kind of make the earthy notes fall into place with it. I think that vanilla wafer, like you said, Tom, just kind of lifts it up, and then you get that rye finish, which is very nice. So you've got all these ups and downs when it hits your palate. That it's not just here and gone, which a lot of whiskey like that is good. But this one just kind of takes you a couple different elevations, and it's very nice, especially at 7-year MGP. And you can't go wrong. I mean, it's that high rye is just solid.
Yeah, and that's why I chose this mash bill. Is I knew it was a solid mash bill. I was a fan of it, and I tasted these barrels, and I just couldn't get them off my mind, just because I thought, the confectionery sugar note that you got, one of the barrels that was just all that it tasted like whenever I blended it. And then there was one that just tasted like green apples, which is actually usually a quality defect in the fermentation process or the wood. I believe it's the wood. But it can be used for good, and can actually result in some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I remember having like a new Riff single barrel at some point that tasted like a caramel apple, and like you said, maybe it's a defect in the barrel or something, but damn, it's pretty friggin' good.
Yeah, I think it's green wood. Like the wood isn't dried out all the way. It can cause it to taste like that. Yeah.
All right. So here's a question for you. So what are some of your favorite bottles or brands, or what are some things that you are hunting right now? As a fan and not a blender.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, actually, I'm looking here at your old shelves in the background. You've got a couple things that I like to collect. I'm a big Found North fan. I like collecting their batches and doing those as they release. I really like Frey Ranch. Their 100% wheat whiskeys are phenomenal. And then probably, every musician has a song that they say they wish there was theirs, or an album that was theirs. I have a bourbon I wish that was mine. That's Wild Turkey. I'm a huge Wild Turkey fan, a Wild Turkey fanboy. I was going to say, I've actually, this bottle right here is a 1972 Wild Turkey that I drained from a decanter, and it's probably the best bourbon I've ever had. But I was going to say, even the color on that for a 8-year-old is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it looks almost black from the
Yeah,
lighting
it's
here.
coffee.
Yeah.
Like coffee, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
That's wild.
I really love trying anything unique. Hazmat's the other big thing I'm into. I'm a big proof guy. I was gonna say
Okay.
that probably doesn't make sense with the bottled and bond whiskey, but
Yeah, it's interesting, but it also makes sense. You know, I guess if I'm putting myself in your shoes for a moment and I'm trying to figure out how to, put together a product that I kind of want to be approachable for everybody.
Mhm.
I don't want to go too high because, you got your casual, fans and your people that are new into whiskey. So you don't want to blow them away,
yeah.
but you also don't want to be too low that you're
Mhm.
not going to get the enthusiasts. So you kind of want to find that medium, and 100 proof. I mean, that probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, to me, bottled and bond is a really great benchmark. I know if I go into a store and I buy a bottled and bond product, then it's going to be quality. It's going to be at least 100 proof and at least 4 years old. And for me, that checks all the boxes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not everybody, like Tom says, not everybody's a proof hound like we are.
Yeah.
Well, I think though that proof.
I mean, it
being
has
a
its
proof
place,
guy,
right?
it follows. It just follows
Yeah.
your journey. You just find
Mhm.
yourself that end up in there, but you got to be able to respect the 110s, 100s, 112s.
Mhm.
Because that's what got us into it to start with.
And then
Yeah,
to go back
absolutely.
to some of those lower proof products as you are further along in your
Yeah,
bourbon journey or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've
It's
got a.
interesting as well because maybe you pick up on some things that you did initially. Maybe you realize, man, this is so dang good. This is what really pulled me in. And then there's things that you're like, wow, how did I like this? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, I tried a Kentucky Artisan Wheated the other day. That was really great, and it was 83 proof. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
kind of in that same vein.
Yeah, I don't think I've had anything that was the lowest proof bourbon I've had this year. I think it was that one from Larkin. That was the rose petal thing. Marty knows what I'm talking about. It's just called the rose water.
86.
Yeah,
86.
that one's real light.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have one or two pours, I'm probably looking at like 115 is maybe my sweet spot. But if I'm going to start early or make any kind of long night of it, it's got to be something around 100 to 105, I think. So, yeah, I think that's a real good sweet spot.
Agreed.
And obviously, as you build your portfolio, your brands, you'll have other, different proofed items. I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, even at cast strength, these are completely different profiles. So like one of the 7-year profiles it was just like fruit salad, if you know what that is, with the grapes and apples and cantaloupe and everything cut up. And that's what it tasted like. And then I proofed it down and it was completely different. So it's kind of cool getting to see those changes, and knowing that if I ever wanted to do a cast strength release, that I would have those type of flavors ready to go. And ready to bottle if I wanted to.
All right. So these currently are the only 2 bourbons in the portfolio, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. Now you also have a completely different product line, right?
Yes. So
why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this next bourbon is one called Thornbush. So Thornbush is our flavored whiskey that was created because we actually export bottles to Europe. So we work with a group in Lithuania to send bottles overseas and actually get it in front of European consumers. And so
hold on. How do you go from we're just starting to now we're sending stuff to Lithuania? That seems like there's some steps in between, right?
Yeah. So we made a really great friend in the industry who actually works as an importer. And he lives in Lithuania. So he's from Kentucky originally, lives in Lithuania now. And he was our middleman there and actually helped us get everything set up. And it was us and 4 or 5 other distilleries all at one time. So it's kind of a big project for distilleries here in Kentucky to get over there and get going. So it wasn't like we were just kind of like going out on our own, like a Christopher Columbus.
Someone to Lithuania randomly. It sounds like it's kind of one of those things where you never really know where this experiment's going to go, and just because of who you met and his connections, you end up in Lithuania. Hey, so you just kind of go with it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so we thought, well, we'll give it a shot and see. And so we thought, well, our regular bourbons may not be a big hit over there. We don't really know their palate. And from what we heard, actually, a lot of flavored American whiskeys, like your Jack Fire or Jack Tennessee Honey or, Red Stag Jim Beam, sell better than, your bottled in bonds or your regular makers, things like that. So we started kind of looking at what we could do in terms of a flavored whiskey. And so a big commonality that we found is actually both the state fruit of Kentucky and the national fruit of Lithuania is the blackberry.
Okay.
And so I'm from a tiny town in Kentucky, called Carlisle, that has a blackberry festival every year. So I kind of grew up going to the blackberry festival. And as I grew older, I kind of wanted to make an homage to my hometown while also paying tribute kind of to making bourbon accessible and something unique. So
yeah, that's what I was going to ask is how did you get to blackberry? And so that actually really sums it up. So that's a great explanation.
Completely different bottle too. I think that's
cool different shape. I mean, you would never make the connection between the two. I mean, it looks like a completely different, the shape's different. There's no mention of the bond. It's a completely different label. It's just under the same umbrella.
Yes, correct. So it's essentially, Vincero Spirits is the umbrella company. And these are two brands that are underneath it. And so, you asked kind of how I got to the blackberry. Like I said, as I actually did a project in college that was create your own bourbon brand, make it unique with a barrel finish or this or that, and write about what you would make. And I made a blackberry wine finished bourbon. And so it'd been on my mind. I've been thinking about it for a little while. And so this one actually, whenever we were making it, I wanted to put real bourbon in it. So let me grab this bottle here. So this is actually the bourbon that's inside of what you're drinking. So this is 3-year-old wheated bourbon, 3.5 old at this point. And then we put all natural blackberry and then coloring foods in there for color. Since we do have to send it to Europe, we can't do red dye 40. And so all coloring foods is just carrot juice. You can't taste it, but you can see the color.
How in the hell do they do it and you can't taste it?
So they just ground to be really
now that you mentioned it.
You said you can't taste it.
So the two things that I noticed right away on this one, Logan, first of all, is the note. I mean, without even getting too close to the bottle, it's super duper blackberry forward. Like, I can probably smell it from here. It's blackberries all day. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing is that as far as like a flavored whiskey goes, this is 30. Okay, so this is 75 proof.
Yeah, so it is a distilled spirit specialty product. That's how we were able to label it like we were.
For flavored whiskey, it's on the higher end of proof wise, right?
Yeah. There's a couple that are into the 80s, but yeah, still kind of a higher proof. Kind of still a really good cocktail mixer, just because it has that higher proof point and carries a little bit of that bourbon flavor and a little bit of that blackberry into it too.
Okay, so tell me this: you're the guy behind this. So is this meant to be sipped neat? Is it meant to be put on ice? Is it meant to be a mixer? What is it really meant to be?
So I tried to make it to be versatile. So really to kind of be able to do everything. So if you wanted to sip it neat, you could, or if you wanted to, put it in a cocktail or use it in place of, bourbon and simple syrup and something, you could do that as well. That was kind of the other use of this, is kind of as like a bartender's friend. If you want to make a drink with blackberry in it, you don't have to muddle up blackberries. All we use is blackberry water and citric acid from lemons. And that's all that goes into the blackberry that's in it. So it's really natural and a really easy way to kind of speed up that ticket time at the bar or make an easy cocktail at home. So,
all right. So I'm going to sip this in just a moment. I'm going to say hi to Roger Reese. He's a big supporter of the channel. He says he can't stay long. Just wanted to pop in and support Tom and Marty. And Roger, cheers, buddy. We love you for it, brother. Hope you're having a good time. All right. So here's where my mind immediately goes with this one. And this is probably pretty common. Keith hits it head on. He says, add lemonade and you have the perfect summertime drink. And that's exactly what I'm thinking when I smell this. Is because it's super blackberry forward. And I'm thinking this maybe isn't something I'm going to sip neat, but I'm going to give it a shot anyhow.
Wait till it hits your palate. Have you had a taste yet?
No, I'm about to.
You're going to be surprised when it hits your palate.
Okay.
I was going to say, I'll preface it with this.
I'm
So
sitting there shaking my head like, okay.
yeah,
Not
so
what
it
I
took me a
expected.
year to blend this. I bought every blackberry bourbon or whiskey in the industry that I could find to try to make something better or equal to.
Well, I'm not a flavored guy, but this is.
You know, I
Oh,
could
yeah.
actually I could sip this.
I could.
Yeah, you can
It's like it's syrupy, but it's not too syrupy.
It's not too
thick.
sugary. That's the thing. It's not a whole lot of sugar.
It feels like it's uber concentrated, but not overly thick and sweet somehow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to
I was
say,
thinking right away that this from the nose that this is going to be super flavor syrup, but it's not that. Like
I was going to say that's a fine line
whiskey
to ride.
doesn't fortify it here.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a fine line to ride between being cough syrup or
I can see
NyQuil.
that. Wow.
Yeah, and then actually kind of balancing everything out. So,
Damn.
That's
I didn't expect
surprisingly
that.
good as a neat sipper. What do you think, Marty?
I thought it was going to be super thin and just blackberry forward, and it's not. It's got mouthfeel from
It
the
does.
wheat.
It's got a good viscosity to it, and it's not the I was almost thinking like pancake syrup is going to be what I'm thinking going into it, but it's this is legit whiskey.
Yeah.
yeah, it's got a little bourbon taste on the back end.
Yeah.
You can get a little bit of that oak, a little bit.
Yeah,
of that
I think the blackberry punch is all up front. It's on the front of the palate, and as it kind of works its way back, it's maybe you get a little bit of blueberry. It's rounding out, and then at the very back end, it's it's bourbon. So it's wild. Yeah, that's
great. It's good, man. We're trying to be big badass bourbon experts, and then you throw a blackberry on us, and dadgone, it's good. I didn't expect that, Logan. I'm telling you, man, you did good with this.
I think, Marty, I still got to think this is going to be dang good as something you put in a cocktail of some sort.
100%, man.
All right, now you mentioned Logan when we were backstage. You mentioned that this. How is it that you're marketing this towards like a local baseball team or something? Tell me what.
Yeah, so if you're in Louisville this summer or this fall visiting any distilleries, the Cincinnati Reds actually have a minor league baseball team there called the Louisville Bats. So we're partnering with the Louisville Bats this year, and they're actually serving Thornbush lemonade slushies there at the stadium. So if you go Sunday through Thursday, you can go and get one of those. And so usually the mix is about 2 parts lemonade to 1 part Thornbush. And that's with just about any cocktail you mix this with. The other thing I have done with this is I've made old fashions where I've left out the simple syrup and the bourbon and just added this in place of the simple syrup in addition to bourbon. Just kind of give it a little extra punch there.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that, Logan, because I don't want to make simple syrup at home because it'll go bad. And I love old fashions, and this would substitute for that. I like that. I don't buy the squeeze bottle stuff. My wife uses the lime and the lemon for the BS stuff she makes.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I just don't make them at home because I just don't want to make the simple syrup. And I know it's nothing to make, but it just gets clumped
I just
up.
buy it, Marty. Be real lazy like me. Get a little thing of roses or something.
Yeah, but yeah, this is killer. Just make a little bit of syrup. Yeah, I know.
So let's talk a little bit more about this one. So obviously very versatile, I think is what you said you were going for, and I can certainly see that here. But what does this one sell for? What's the blackberry, and what this is called? Just Thornbush blackberry. So Thornbush again being the brand, blackberry being the variant. What's the price tag on one of these, Logan?
So the price on that one ranges from $36.99 to $39.99. It depends on which store you go. It is a premium option for a flavored whiskey. I'll be very open and honest about that. But I do want to be open and honest. We do use aged bourbon in it. We're one of the very few people that do out on the market today. And that's kind of why we do have to do that. But I do think it justifies the price when the taste.
I'll be honest. I don't know where a lot of the flavored whiskeys fit in terms of what are they charging for a lot of these. I mean, I Fireball is cheap, but I think that's
I think the non-creek maple is up there a little bit, 40-ish plus. But it's not very natural. I think it's just maple flavoring. I don't think there's any real maple. Don't quote me on that. I don't know what Beam does with that.
You're good.
I'm not sure, but it's too maple. You got to find something that's natural maple barrels or something for me if you want it to work. But yeah, this here, I've got to get some of this to start doing my old fashions. It kills me. I mean, look, I'm tore up, man. I mean, I think I'm tore up is because I was just thinking, oh God, a flavored whiskey. Oh.
It's like he's really making us try this.
It's really good.
Like, I gotta act like I'm going in with an open mind, but I'm thinking, where am I going to probably end up with this? And and an old fashioned sounds good, but immediately my thought was, we're getting into summer here. I'm going to be open in the pool. I'm going to be pouring this with some lemonade and maybe hanging out outside. That kind of has like the perfect summer vibe, feel to it. To me,
I've got to get a bottle of this for the beach in 2 weeks somehow. That's just what I'm going to make. I
was gonna say you'll have to send me your reviews on what you think with the cocktails.
Oh yeah.
The one word I hear is dangerous.
I'm sure. Spiky is one that kind of spikes it up with that 75 proof of that. You're not using a simple syrup that has no proof. You're using 75 proof.
Yeah, this has some punch to it for sure.
Yeah.
So Logan, do you publish? I know you're on Instagram, and I know you've got your website. Do you put out recipes for any cocktails on the Thornbush end of things, or is it just kind of choose your own adventure type of thing?
No, so we actually work with local restaurants and bars actually to develop cocktails and put those out. So earlier this year, we worked with Jeff Ruby's a steakhouse out of Lexington, but they're a chain. They have one in Louisville, Cincinnati, Nashville as well, and developed something called the Kentucky Love Affair. So that was a take on a whiskey sour. Where they added Thornbush and Gold Flakes and champagne simple syrup and a bunch of stuff to it. And so we try to post those and then post those online. So if you want to go all out and make the fancy cocktails, we have all the resources for that. Or if you want to stick to kind of the basics, you can too.
All right. So here's a question in chat, Logan, and you can answer this how you like. It says, does the Bond have a location we can visit? A couple of us will be up in the bourbon country in about a month.
So, yeah, unfortunately, we don't at the moment. I would love for us to. I was going to say I'm sitting here in our office in downtown Bardstown looking at the back door of Evergreens and the Volstead and all that. But
wait, hold up. You're where?
Yeah, so I'm in Bardstown. So our office is in downtown Bardstown. So this isn't where we have all our barrels and everything. But I'm looking at the back door of the Cox's Evergreens that's here on Main Street at the Volstead. So kind of right in the thick of things. Yeah, right in the middle of it all.
A lot of us here, I can look at some of the names here in chat. And I know Marty was there. Last year we were in Bardstown for an event. And I know we were all at Evergreen at some point.
Yeah, so you weren't too far away.
So that's wild. So we know exactly where that is.
We're coming back.
Yeah, probably come back in the fall,
middle October.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll be here. We'll figure something out.
Blackberry whiskey sour sounds great. Yeah, that does sound pretty good, Mark.
So I have tried that. It is good.
We're staying in Bardstown. Yeah, downtown Bardstown is it's a really cool, old school downtown area, and with a group of us down there, just kind of walking, down the streets and going to places to eat, places to have cocktails, and we just had a fantastic time down there. So if anybody's here in chat that hasn't been to downtown Bardstown, definitely check it out. I mean, yeah, there's the distilleries to visit and all that good stuff, but
restaurants, you can walk everywhere.
Exactly.
I mean, there's rain like me and Tom do, but yeah,
there's so much to see. The little places to stop into in downtown Bard. I mean, I can remember my wife and I just stopping into some random place and getting like a real good coffee and it was like a breakfast donuts.
Yeah, fresh.
There was all
fresh.
kinds of
It's
food.
right there on Main Street. Yeah, there's a lot in downtown. Like even like there was Scout and Scholar, a really nice restaurant and brewery.
Yeah, it was
that's
right next to
has a
Scout
great
and Scholar.
patio.
Actually, I can't think of it. Was like a little hole in the wall, and it was a little bakery.
Oh, Haydorns.
That's what it was. Yes, sir.
Yeah, every Friday morning, that's what we have in our meetings. I was going to say my coworker lives down the street from it, so he makes the rundown for us.
All right.
But-
so what does Jimmy say? He says Bart sounds like a Norman Rockwell with a shitload more bourbon. Okay, that's an interesting take. I can see that, Jimmy. Toby.
Logan, let me ask you something. Since we've narrowed down Bardstown, do a few times a month, or I guess no, not month, but every few months, do you set up, or do your guys, your partners set up at Evergreen or somewhere and just say, guys, here, just wear it out, taste this stuff? Does that work pretty well I would think it would, especially.
Yeah, I was going to say actually all the time we're doing that. So that's kind of one of our main strategies is
the backyard. Like
liquor the lips and own in our backyard. And so, if we bring bottles into a liquor store, we like to show the same respect to them that they've shown to us. If they respect us enough to pick up our bottles and would be willing to carry us, then we want to help them move them. We want to host tastings and be able to let people try our products. And like I said, show it's a little bit different than your typical MGP. There's been a little bit more care, a little bit more kind of intentionality put into this one. And then same thing with the flavored whiskey as well. A lot of people look at Crown Blackberry or they look at American options and then they say, well, I may be willing to switch to something that's a little bit better. And often what we found is people like ours a little bit better. So, I was going to say we had 2 tastings tonight, another 2 tomorrow, and another 3 on Saturday. So we're working those all the time.
So that totally 150% exceeded the expectation of when I asked that question.
Yeah, sorry,
Good for you.
I apologize.
Yeah,
So let me ask you this, Logan.
Mhm.
What is your best seller? What moves the most units?
Thornbush, actually.
Okay.
I'm going to run downstairs and take this to my wife. So I'll be right back. So you all keep going. I will return.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that makes sense. And to me, I think that would fill me with a lot of pride because this is, I know you said that the one blend was your baby, but this is something that you're making. Blending is one thing, making is another. So there's a little bit more of your fingerprints on it, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
Yeah. For me, it was, I didn't know really how to feel about it at first, to know that I made a couple of really solid straight bourbons and then a phenomenal flavored whiskey. I would rather that be the other way around, but I've learned to love it.
You'll get there, dude.
Yeah. I was gonna say I've learned to love it, and it's really cool to, as you said, be something that I've kind of worked through the process of. I've got you can't see it, but on this little shelf over here, probably 20 or 30 iterations of samples of that, of just working through the flavor of saying, well, I don't like this type of blackberry flavor, or this is too much, or this is too sweet. And for me, just kind of knowing the work it put into kind of making that, or work I put into making that, and kind of the opportunity I do have to kind of expand that product line and put out new flavors as well is exciting.
Yeah, that this is just wild. I want to say I had some preconceived notions, and then when I smelled it, I had some other preconceived notions, and then when I tasted it, it was completely different. So that's really unique, man.
I got 2 thumbs up. So here we go.
Well, thank you.
Give you the green light to go ahead and order one.
Yeah, maybe 2.
So I did not see these available on your main site. Are these at a different site, or are you not able to sell these in the same manner? What's the scoop?
So as you mentioned at the top of the episode, so it is 2 different brands. So they do have 2 different websites. So that one is on thornbushwhiskey.com. And you can order it from there as well, I believe.
Is it the same distribution footprint?
Yes, it should be. And if it's not on there, then that means our distributors ran out and has not told us. So I apologize.
So what is it? It's thornbushwhiskey.com?
Yes, it should be.
With an EY or just a Y?
EY.
All right. I'll just put that up there if anyone wants to check that out. I don't think I even got that deep when I was doing some digging here, Logan.
That's
But
pretty.
boy,
Yeah.
that's something. That is something, especially for this time of the year. I think this is just something that people are going to want. So I think the marketing idea with the slushies and at a baseball game, boy, that sounds that sounds about right, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the big thing is bourbon's never really a summertime drink. Not many people gravitate towards a 120 proofer in the summertime. And for me, I was like, this is kind of making bourbon that summertime drink that people can turn to and put in cocktails and mixed drinks, and it won't be like super, super heavy on you for the rest of the day. So,
all right, here's Corvette Trey saying, "Here we're staying at the new Trail Hotel for Trey Larkin's 50th.
Beautiful there. It's beautiful.
Have you seen that place yet?
Yeah, I have. I've not had the chance to tour it yet, but it's a beautiful facility. They just finished renovating everything. I think they have like a golf simulator and bar on site there. It's awesome.
When we went, the gentleman that is running that came out and did like a brief, wouldn't call it a presentation. Would you, Marty? What would you call that? Maybe just a little bit of a teaser.
Is that the one Big Vic won the 2-night stay?
It is. The guy was at the little cocktail bar.
If Katie's here, she knows. We talked about it like 2 weeks ago.
Liam and Ash.
Yeah, Liam and Ash. Yes, sir. That's what it was.
Yeah, so he owns that as well. So.
The gentlemen from Foregate were there, and then
Bill was there.
The guy that was starting that hotel was there, and it sounded amazing.
Logan, is Liam and Ash doing okay? Because it's going on a year since we've been there. Are they?
Yeah. I was going to say we've done tastings with them, and they're packed every time I go past there.
Good.
That's what I was going to say. Is everything in Bardstown is bustling. We're in tourist season, as we like to call it right now. It's traffic's a little packed, but it's going well.
Good.
Lots of new stuff opening up, even downtown. The new Evergreen there is driving in a lot of traffic, and new shops and ice cream shops and that type of thing are opening up. Even Neat Bottle Bar. If you've not seen that, Neat Bottle Bar is worth checking out. I was going to say that's across from Talbot Tavern, but it's vintage bottles and really cool stuff.
Good.
We stopped into one little bottle shop, Marty, and they had the K. Luke. I forget the name of it, but it was real small. It was downtown.
Where we did the tastings that she was like giving us basically me and Franchi and you and
no.
I was gonna say, was it the Bond
It was on the other side of the street from Evergreen.
Yeah, it was real tiny.
The Blonde Pig.
That's it.
Yeah.
Love it. She was awesome for us, man.
I was gonna say she's a huge supporter of ours.
All kinds of stuff like for $5-6, man. She was killing it.
So it sounds like you're definitely making an impression. You're making an impression on the local stores, which is huge. I did watch that video. It was that's on your site, and it was one of Bruzel's videos where he goes into one of the stores that's local. He asks the shop owner, what's something good here that's local that I've not heard of, and the shop owner, the first thing he mentions was you guys. So
the shop owner gave them Blanton's.
Kidding.
Oh, shop owner said you tried to tag, right?
No, that's so I
thought
did,
that was Travis. Cool. Damn right, they had that K. Luke cab finish first release.
The K. Luke's good. The K. Luke's great as well.
Yeah, Jonathan does good.
There's so much great stuff out nowadays. But sorry, go ahead.
We've got 9 o'clock. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and have Tyler spin the wheel here momentarily. And Logan, what I'm going to do here tonight is, I don't know if you're watching the crawl at the bottom here, but you were generous enough to send bottles to the channel here for me to sample through, and we certainly shared them with Marty to
thank you, buddy.
Impressions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Assume the idea here is we would like to get these in as many people's hands to try stuff. So we're going to do 3 flights of each of these in the giveaway here. You know what? If I got enough sample bottles, we'll do 4. But again, the idea is we'd like to get these, relatively, small batch products into people's hands that wouldn't have otherwise had the chance. So let's do this. Logan, how many times should I have Tyler hit shuffle on the wheel here?
I'm gonna say 4.
All right, Tyler hit it 4 times.
I was gonna say that's my lucky number.
All right. So now, I before I always ask this when I have somebody tell me that. I'm assuming. Well, I wouldn't say you're a total left brain logic guy because you're also a right brain creative. But random is random, right? Whether it's shuffled or not. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right,
absolutely.
but it gives the appearance that it's more random if he shuffles it.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and we'll spin it here, Tyler, for our first winner here. Corvette
Rigged.
Awesome.
All right, Corvette Trey, big supporter of the channel.
Hell, he bought some tonight.
What's that, Marty?
He bought bottles. I
Did he?
think.
That's
Yeah,
hey, you got some
Trey
samples coming your way
Trey
too, man.
Chat, he'll say whatever.
I don't know if you bought the blackberry. Maybe I'll get you a 2-ounce sampler of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're probably gonna want to order that one too.
There's Brian. Yeah, pass
right,
it to someone else. He said, Tom.
What's that?
Corvette Trey said, "Yeah, pass it to someone else."
Okay. All right. Because he ordered them. All right, go ahead,
Yeah,
Tyler. Do it again.
That's awesome.
Rocky Reese. The guy has the magic touch on the wheel.
I'll
All right,
text
so
him. I'll put it in text, Tom.
all right, so we got one for Roger. Go ahead and remove Roger. Spin it again. And we've got Mr.
Toby said he has the bottles to take him off. He texted me and do it again.
All right. We'll move on down.
This is great, Logan. I mean, these people, I mean,
that's very, very generous of the guys that are winning.
Yeah, we got a group.
They bought,
Randall E, here we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just appreciate everybody being willing to try it, and I'm really excited for you all to get these samples and let us know what you think. I was gonna say because I think it's different than most MGPs you'll try these days. I let it sit for a little while, actually let it blow off. So kind of like pouring a drink and letting that air out for 5-10 minutes before you drink it. It changes the whiskey and does something special to it. So
they get chewable. The 2 bourbons have gotten chewable now.
Chewable, huh?
Oh yeah, taste it now. It's a
I
sugar,
can tell you that
sugar
second one
vanilla
was
cake.
building, sure.
The 7 years now, sugar vanilla cake, man.
All right, go ahead and spin her again, Ty.
I'm out of the 4-year. It's gounced. Come on, Cindy. I want Cindy to. Chris, all right.
All right, so Chris is here in Michigan, so I'm pretty sure he has not tried any of these.
Okay, good.
So we'll get those up to you, Chris. And then let's do one more for good measure, Tyler.
Come on, Cindy.
There you go.
Yes.
there you go.
Look at that. It was only that easy.
Cindy is always so damn close with us, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad she got it. I was gonna say if she's that
Well,
close all the
thing,
time, then
Cindy,
she needs
here's
it.
what's awesome, Logan. Cindy can have her little samples and go drink Corvette Trays because they're best friends. The bottles he bought, so it's great. She got a double whammy. That's
I
awesome.
would say it's a win-win.
Yes, congratulations, everybody. That's awesome. You're going to enjoy these. I really believe you will.
And thank you for all the support tonight, guys. I appreciate it as well, and it means a lot for you all having me on and being willing to try our stuff and give us a shot. I was going to say with all the brands nowadays.
I'll say special thanks here to Keith, who put us in touch. Again, I had never heard of the brand, and so again, I'm open to trying new things, just like you. I think that's part of the excitement and why we like this hobby. Is trying new things. You never know what's going to come along and knock your socks off, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, how are you on time, Logan? Are you okay?
Yeah.
What'd you say? So am I good on time?
Because we usually wrap up right about now.
Yeah, I'm good on time. Yeah.
We'll talk to you backstage here for just a bit, but
Mhm.
everybody that came to check us out tonight and sip through these, get to know a little bit more, about Logan and his brand,
Mhm.
the Bond and Thornbush. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Marty, anything you want to put out there? Anything coming up on your channel?
Yeah, I've got 2 reviews coming. I got the Oaklaura Rye and Bourbon coming from North Carolina. Hopefully be released tomorrow afternoon. And then I've got the Conviction Double Oaked Bourbon out of North Carolina coming first next week. And then live next Thursday.
That's a lot going. You got a lot going on, man.
I was gonna say Matt and the whole crew at Oaklaura are amazing. They're good friends of ours.
Dude, I got to meet up with Jack last Tuesday, and we hung out for an hour and just talked. And he gave me 2 bottles to sample out and try. And I'm impressed. Was it 90?
I got those, Marty. So I'll try.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, they were some of our first friends in the industry. Actually, like my first week on the job, we met them and got to be friends with them.
That's great.
I've stayed that ever since. So yeah, great.
Thanks,
guy.
Logan. Looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing. Corvette Trey said, yeah.
Thanks, Trey. Yeah, I
Trey
appreciate
Larkin said, thanks, Logan, for joining in.
See, we may not have a zillion people in here, but we got some hardcores.
Yeah, we got our family here, man. That's what matters.
Logan, anything you want to plug while we're here?
Just want to thank everybody again. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate the willingness to give us a shot and try us out. If you want to keep up with us and what we're doing and all our tastings and such, events to come to, even new flavors maybe for Thornbush, make sure to check out Thornbush Whiskey on Instagram and then the Bond Bourbon, and you'll find us there.
All right.
Awesome.
And then one more thing I'll mention, since a couple of guys we know did order here. If the code didn't work, message me and I'll get in touch with Logan and see if we can't figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure something out with it. Yeah, I apologize about that, guys. I really am sorry.
Hey, Tom, I'll tell you what else we can do. Everybody like Trey and those guys that ordered our next live, we can do a couple free entries too to kind of make up the difference.
Yeah, we'll see how many of these samples I pour out, but I'd be happy to give some more away, again, with the idea of getting it in.
I won't. Yeah,
possible. I just don't have a zillion sample bottles. I mean, I'm going through like one of these a month. I order them by like 30 packs.
Yeah.
3 weeks in, I'm out. So, all right. Well, everybody, thanks again. I appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Cheers. Thanks for watching. Stay jerky.
Yep.
See you guys.